A few days ago on Monday night, the Woking team showed off its new MCL60 with a launch event inside its headquarters. Compared to its previous sibling in 2022, the car has some bold aerodynamic changes, such as a much more aggressive sidepod solution. The MCL60 was shown off at the McLaren Technology Center in Woking on Monday. It has a livery that is mostly the same as its predecessor. The most noticeable changes are a tribute to the season's 10th anniversary and more black areas. Several teams are trying to reduce weight by taking paint off their cars. Lando Norris's new rookie teammate Oscar Piastri joined him on stage, along with McLaren's chief executive Zak Brown and new team principal Andrea Stella, who was promoted from executive director after Andreas Seidl left for Sauber. This gave the launch a new feel. The team wants to do better than it did in 2022 when it dropped from 4th to 5th in the constructor standings and lost to Alpine in the race to be the best of the rest after Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes. But as it stands, the new principal Andrea Stella might not agree with the fans of the team, but more on that later. McLaren is a team with a lot of history in the racing world. It's one of the F1 teams that's been racing every year since 1966. They're one of the teams with the most experience. They were founded by Bruce McLaren, a racer from New Zealand. He unfortunately passed away in 1970 while testing one of the Can-Am cars that bore his name at Goodwood. 4 years later, Emerson Fittipaldi led the team to its first world championship, while James Hunt won the team's second title in 1976. McLaren then proceeded to win a couple more championships with a very distinguished set of names like Niki Lauda, Alain Prost, and the late Ayrton Senna, all winning a title during the 1980s and early 90s. But they've struggled since, with the exception of 1998 and 1999, when Mika Häkkinen briefly brought them back on top, and Lewis Hamilton's first title in 2008. As we can see, it's safe to say that McLaren has been a pillar of Formula One since its early days. After taking over as CEO of McLaren Racing at the end of 2016, Zak Brown had a hard time getting the team back on track. It got off to a good start, putting the team in 3rd place at the 2020 World Championship, which was their best finish in 8 years. The next year, McLaren was finally back on top of the podium at Monza. That was done with a car that had a Mercedes engine put in it instead of a Renault engine, so better things were expected in 2022, and the technical team would be able to design their power unit from the ground up. They didn't come true. The team dropped to 5th place in the championship standings, didn't get much more than half of the points it had in 2021, and only made it to the top step of the podium once at Imola. Even so, they were the only team besides Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes to finish in the top 3. There were 2 things wrong with McLaren. First, Daniel Ricciardo had a rough start with the team, even though he won at Monza. This continued into last season and even got worse. Instead of running him again in 2023 as planned, the team had to cut his 3-year deal short by 1 season. The MCL36 also had a lot of problems. Brake cooling problems slowed them down at the start of the season, and even after they were fixed, McLaren never had the speed to give frontrunners a run for their money in 2021. Over the course of the season, another problem came up. Brown didn't go after a deal to sell power units to Audi because he didn't want to sell out. He couldn't stop their arrival from having an effect on his team, though. As soon as Audi made a deal with Sauber, they went after Andreas Seidl, who had impressed many with how well he carried out Brown's vision for the team. Seidl, however, left the team to oversee Audi's incorporation into F1 and was replaced with the current team principal, Andrea Stella. In this year's car, just like Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri, and Williams, McLaren has tried to make more space around the front of its side pods and floor inlets. They did this by copying the design of the Red Bull RB18, which was F1's clear benchmark at the end of the 2022 season. The floor fences that bring air to the car's underfloor and around its side pods have also been changed in McLaren's design. McLaren said that the car on display at the team's launch is not likely to change much before the Bahrain preseason test from February 23rd to 25th. Stella, on the other hand, ahead of the MCL60 launch, set a cautious goal for the next season. The team wants to do better than their 5th place finish at the Constructors' Championship. When asked about the team's goals for the year, Stella said that McLaren wanted to make big changes halfway through the year. Stella told the media, "I think it's safe to say that over the course of the season, we'd like to establish ourselves as one of the top 4. We know that with top 3 teams already in place, this could mean that our car is only the 4th best. Over the course of the season, I say. In the short term, we have a good idea of how things will go." There are already good things in the works that should come to fruition very soon in the season. These should help us move forward in a very good way. We're not naive. We know that almost every team will say that they've made good progress. He doesn't think the launch version of the car is as good as it can be, which is why there are high hopes that early season upgrades will help it get there. When asked about how far along the team is with the 2023 car, Stella said, "When we looked at how we did last year and compared it to this year, we saw a lot of opportunities. The good news is that most of them have already been fixed. I don't want to be too specific, but they have a lot to do with how air flows around them. Aerodynamics is the name of the game in F1, so there's no mystery there. However, there were some areas where we needed to work, like how the car interacts with the tires. This was done over the winter. Stella also added he thought the upgrades would be ready around the time of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, but he did not give a specific date. In terms of when things will change, I hope it'll be a couple of months or less into the season, he said. This may happen at the same time as Race 4. We'll see how quickly we can finish this project. He finished saying that they are aware they had work to do as the new 2023 season is getting closer, but that everyone in the team was totally focused and committed to make their 60th anniversary year a special one. We can safely assume that the raw performance just simply hasn't been there, and there's no way around that. Part of the reason for this is that the pandemic really messed up the team's plans to improve its infrastructure, which included putting a new wind tunnel. So McLaren will need to step up their game in 2023 to keep up with the competition. Ricciardo has been replaced by the rookie Oscar Piastri, and after 2 years of trying to fix the problems that his experienced predecessor had with their car, McLaren really needs Piastri, who just joined them at the end of last year, to click quickly with their setup. The team also needs to make a fast enough car to make up for the fact that they got worse last year. Norris's driving style was not well suited to his car last year, even though he got most of the points. He will expect nothing less than a return to 2021, when he regularly finished in the top half of the points and had the occasional podium finish and a chance to win. McLaren knows that Norris will get the most out of their car on a flying lap and fight with the best of them on race day, if the car is up to it. Whether or not they can move back up in the championship will depend on both how good the MCL 60 is and whether or not Piastri lives up to the reputation he built by winning 3 straight Junior Series titles between 2019 and 2021. Nevertheless, McLaren's team will be one to watch this season. Are you a fan of McLaren? What are your expectations about this team in the upcoming season? Are you excited or not? Let us know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video.